Hello again, Tony and Susan Alamo coming your way. Shalom to all our longsmen everywhere.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Amanda Ray and I grew up in a polygamous cult in Salt Lake City, Utah. Today we're going to be talking about the new show, How I Escaped a Cult. I only watched the first episode and I was shocked because I was like, I probably know all of these cults. I definitely didn't think that I would discover a new cult on this show because I have researched so many cults since leaving my cult and finding so many common denominators in each of these cults, which... Spoiler, this cult had a polygamist in it and a man who was believed that he should be able to impregnate multiple women. Anyways, why is that always the case? So today we're talking about episode 1. I'm trying to give you guys a perspective that maybe is new, fresh, and I would love to hear your guys' perspectives as well on these. So this is the only one I'm doing. If you guys like this, if this video does well, I'll do more because sometimes it's harder to do these videos for my mental health. This one was very interesting. I did watch it twice, but I got very, very heated. Specifically, okay, so this is the Tony Alamo cult. The specific part that heated me and made me so upset was when he was trying to defend himself for why he was impregnating little girls. He was saying that Mary, when she was impregnated with Jesus, baby Jesus, she was only like 11 years old. That was his defense. And we hear this a lot with these polygamous men because always you'll see polygamous men going for younger and younger women because they're easier to manipulate. But they're saying that, if we remember like Tom Green, I've done videos on him, he was saying that, well, if God is letting a woman get her menstruation cycle, then doesn't that mean that he wants them to be getting impregnated at that time? Don't you think that God's design is perfect and da-da-da? But it's so stupid, okay? I get so mad about this because also, like, boys can produce sperm at the age of like 11. So does that mean that they need to be running around impregnating a bunch of people? Does that mean that we need to just be having all these little kids be having more kids at that age? Their brain's not even fully developed. Like, use your brain that God gave you, Tom Green. Why God give me pee-pee if he don't want me to put it everywhere? Like, why God give me penis if I can't put it in everything I look at? Shut up. So annoying. And okay, sorry, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but it pissed me off that there's recordings of him literally calling news stations.
With KATV in Little Rock, I was just calling Tony Alamo back.
Yes, hold this one, please.
Thank you.
Hi, Heather.
Hi, Tony. Okay, I'm on a line that is being recorded. First, if you would, tell me your reaction to the raid that happened this weekend.
Well, it's the same reaction. I take it the same way that the Lord said to take it. He said, rejoice, the Apostle Paul said, when all these things are happening to you, because it happened to the prophets before you. And but I know the people out in the world don't want to hear Bible scriptures. They don't want to hear anything that the Apostle Paul or Jesus said. So me being out of the record industry, I'll just say this. I like it. I love it. I want a lot more of it.
In light of what happened, 6 children were removed from that property. Are you pleased?
Yes, that's right. And they're not going to find anything wrong with them either. Okay, in light of that, okay, anything else?
Were the children that were removed your children?
Oh, get off of that, you crummy pig, you. None of them were my children.
They were not your children. Okay, and what do you want to see happen to those children now?
They have to be returned, okay, because there's nothing, they've never had any sexual experience at all. This is a holy church. You people in the media are just a branch of it. You're the voice of Satan. You love to spread the rumors of the garbage that they tell you that I'm doing and other people like me. And so you just keep it up because I like it. I love it. I want a lot more of it.
And so what do you do now? Are you in Arkansas at this time?
In Arkansas? No.
Where are you right now?
On Earth.
Which city are you in?
What is it your business?
Okay, I believe that the reason why cults thrive is because they're surrounded by so many enablers, right? There's so many people being like, oh yes, he's a man of God, we cannot question him. And so then they thrive in this environment where everyone's like, yeah, you're the best, and they're not allowed to question him, or else they get kicked out, right? Or they get beatings and stuff like that, which you will hear about that happening in this story. There's an amazing survivor. It's really empowering hearing her tell her story, but she was abused for basically writing how she felt in her diary and getting caught, and he sent her to her dad to get beat. And so it's like anyone who is questioning the system gets abused, gets their name tainted. And so then these cults create this environment where the leaders on top never gets held accountable, and then it declines so fast. Like even my cult started in 1935, declined so fast since then. So much incest, so much underage marriages. People have already gone to prison. It's still going on though. But this is what happens when you have a cult leader that's never allowed to be held accountable, and then they have this inflated ego, which is crazy. This Tony guy was like, literally thought that he could go talk to the police, and by the end he's like, I'm gonna talk to the police. And he thought, I bet you in his brain he was like, I'm just gonna talk to them like I talked to all my other followers, and then they're gonna get it. They're gonna be like, you know what, you're right, Tony. And this is something too, I think that a lot of these cults that get caught, a lot of the time, it's that inflated ego. It's that they've gotten away with so much, they've had so many people covering their stuff up for them, then they're like, I got out of that, I can get out of this. They overestimate themselves, which is, in hindsight, a good thing. That's the only good thing of that ego, is that it finally gets them caught. But this is also the frustrating part, is he does go to prison for 4 years for not paying his taxes. It's crazy that he got caught on that, but not on all this other, it took so much longer to get all this other stuff. And I always get so mad that the government, like, hey, oh, you didn't pay your taxes, you're going to prison. Oh, allegations of underage R-word. Sorry, I don't know if I'm gonna get demonetized, but allegations of multiple girls getting, R-worded. Meh, I hate that, but I also know that the tax stuff is probably easier to point it directly at him rather than this being like, especially when there's so many people, hush hush enabling him. And the fear mongering that happens in these cults, this happened in the order all the time. When someone started to be like, oh, well, maybe I'll speak up, or oh, well, I don't want to do what you're doing, what you're telling me to do to protect you. Oh, hey, well, you're gonna go to prison too. That has happened. Well, you're married to your sibling, so they're gonna put you in prison too for incest, so you better lie or else we're all going to prison. Which, by the way, a lot of that stuff isn't even true, but they make sure that their members don't really know their rights as human beings or the laws as human beings, so that they can be easier to control and manipulate. So I think part of the protection of the cult leader is obviously like blindly following, yes, but it's so much deeper than that. There's fear mongering, they're afraid for their own safety, and then there's also fear of going to hell, how they're treated. If they aren't in line, then there's so many repercussions.
We have to go back to 1969, when Tony and Susan Alamo founded the Alamo Christian Foundation in Hollywood.
The Word of God also says the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom.
Susan Alamo was the real preacher. Tony became the promoter. She was the show.
We believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God.
And everyone there believes that whatever Tony and Susie said came straight from God. In the early 1980s, Susan actually got breast cancer. She died in 1982, and on her deathbed said to him, Tony, you need to just abandon the church because you'll wreck it.
But Tony isn't ready to walk away from a national movement.
The fact that this whole cult started with Tony and his wife, and she was actually the one that started the whole thing. Even in the show, they said that when she was passing away, she told Tony, basically, keep your grimy hands off this religion because you're gonna ruin it. And she was right.
It makes me wonder what was going on behind closed doors that we don't know about, that maybe they were covering up, because the fact that she said to Tony to step away from the church, it means there was probably a lot going on that made her see who Tony really was and basically predict the future of the downfall of the church. But I think that these cults become so obsessed with their image, and they don't like things getting out about their personal life that can make them look bad because they have this image to uphold. I mean, based on what I've seen in my own cults, there's so much going on in the higher ups that they brush under the rug and they hide because they don't want that bad image going out to the public or to the followers. They want to be perceived as this perfect human that God is speaking through. So Susan's daughter Chris wrote a book about Susan and how Susan was actually pretty abusive and had struggles with alcohol, was married a few times, was very racist but charismatic. She had many affairs, including one of Chris's own boyfriends at the time, who was only 16 years old. She discusses so many different stories where Susan was just, I don't know, she just sounds like a really not a very good mother. I guess I thought that Susan and Tony were first time married and had kids together, but no, Susan was married more than once, and she actually found Tony years later, and after she had already had her daughter Chris, and Tony is 9 years younger than Susan. Tony was said to be a compulsive liar. Actually, a lot of people in the industry in the area of Hollywood knew that Tony had a kind of a sleazy reputation, which is why it's kind of interesting. How did they get so many people to fall for this cult? I don't know. Also, this is said in the book, Susan's daughter's book, Tony, when at the time of Tony meeting Susan, he was already married, living with his mistress, and has kids. So by this point, like, Susan knew the kind of person Tony was, but I guess didn't care. I don't know. And I don't know what happened to Tony's kids. I don't know what happened to, if he ever saw his other wives again. I don't understand. If everybody knew that Tony was this kind of a creep, how did they get this cult to become so big? I don't know.
But on November 3rd, 2006, 15-year-old Desiree finds herself running from her 72-year-old husband.
I was trembling. I was scared.
I did want to say that these women talking about their story on TV, they're so brave, and I really hope that, I think that anyone sharing their story coming out of a cult or surviving trauma should get paid handsomely. Sadly, that's not the case. Coming from someone who was on a TV show called Escaping Polygamy, we were paid chump change. And also, on top of that, producers were pushing us into talking about things that were so traumatic. We were still not even processing it, haven't even talked to our therapist about it, yet they wanted us to put it all over, broadcast it all over to the world, right? Our most traumatic moments. So I think that anyone who is documenting cult survivors, they need to offer therapy, free therapy, because you're not forcing, but you are having them talk about their trauma, and you are making money off of their trauma. So you better be giving them therapy, you better be giving them money. Like, if you're gonna be, kind of pisses me off. I've been traumatized. I was traumatized by a cult, and then I got on a TV show, got traumatized by the producers, but these women are very, very brave for sharing their stories, and I hope that they were well compensated, and that they feel like that they resonated well with the show, and that it made them happy that they were a part of it. Because a lot of the times people will see how the show makes them look, and they're like, that's not what I wanted, and they're again in another situation where they have no control over it.
Every day that passes strengthens Desiree's resolve to escape.
He would tell us that we were ugly and that we were stupid, that we would never become anything, that we were never anything, and that, even if we tried to leave, that we would never be anything.
This is so common amongst cults. This happened in my cult as well. So not only do you have the fear of hell, the fear of eternal damnation, but you also have every person over you telling you that if you do leave, you're never going to make it, you're never going to become anything, you're going to end up on drugs and alcohol, just like the last few people that left, which isn't even true. They just claim that that's what happened with the last people that left, just to make a bad example out of them so that you fear leaving even more. They tear down your self-confidence, your self-image, so that you don't even think that you can successfully leave, and you don't even think you can be anybody without them. It's very common that people who come out of these cults have zero self-esteem. So Desiree ends up calling her aunt on the outside, and her aunt helps her leave this cult. Desiree was one of the many wives of Tony Alamo, and she was only 8 years old when he married her, and she was lucky enough to have someone on the outside that could help her. But it just goes to show, in this cult as well as many others, they try to isolate the members so they don't have anyone on the outside or have connection to them.
I knew at that moment that I would probably never see my family again.
And this is another very common thing that cults will do, is not only are you isolated from your family on the outside so you can't have a chance of leaving, once you do leave, if you can, you're lucky if you can get out, but once you do get out, then you are now isolated from anyone on the inside so that you can't bring them out. If you see the traits of a narcissist or a narcissistic relationship, this is very similar. Anyone who has been in a narcissistic relationship, you can totally see the parallels of someone who just tries to isolate their victim, and then as soon as they are freed, then they try to just change the narrative or control the narrative of the person who left. Basically so that no one looks at the leader of the cult as anything but great.
September 25th, 2008. The investigators arrest Tony Alamo and charge him with 10 counts of child sex abuse.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and comment down below if you would like to see more of these types of videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
And you know that spot in the Ozark Mountains where I had that supernatural experience with Jesus Christ all those years ago? That spot was just as real to me today as it was when I was a little 9-year-old girl, when God came down from the heavens and touched my little body. Lord, I'm going to have every promise in that book is mine, and I'm going to have them in the name of Jesus. And that humility of the heart, why me, Lord? My God, my Lord and my God, what have I ever done that you could be so merciful to me? What have I ever done that I could deserve the kindnesses of the Almighty God? Why me, Lord? Tony, sing for us. Why me, Lord?
Why me, Lord? What have I ever done to deserve even one of the pleasures I've known? Tell me, Lord, what did I ever do that was worth